This is the Career Brand Story podcast where we talk about your career, your brand, and your story, and a whole lot more. We've been on a journey helping 3,000 plus people thrive in their life and do more of what they love. You can follow us at Career Brand Story on all of our socials. I'm Jeremy Todd, career strategist and creator founder of Career Brand Story. Jebb Graff is with me, creative consultant, commercial photographer, producer, and co-host. Here we are, already getting the words messed up.
I am the co-host.
You're the
Hear me
co-host.
roar.
Co-host is with me. And listener, we are excited to be back with you. We're recommitted to bringing you a new season of great content on a regular schedule. I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, late 2021, and going into 2022 was just a whirlwind of getting settled down to a new location. I don't think that you can ever underestimate what that takes, a relocation, both personally and professionally, and have just been on my own career growth in business. And Jebb, I know that's been true for you too, that there's just been a lot of different opportunities that really kind of kept us where we were just kind of hit and miss last year. So many times with the podcast, and it's not what we want. So it's good to be back in the studio.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're a listener of this podcast, or if you're new, I guess I can just say this is not really a monetized podcast. Yes, there is an ad, but I think we've got like $15 the whole time we've been doing this. So
enough for some tacos.
Yeah, it's enough for a couple of tacos in this economy. But yeah, that's just the reality. We've got to focus on the things that keep ourselves and our families fed and secure. But all that said, I'm really glad to be back. I've missed podcasting. I've missed your face somehow, Jeremy, and it's good to be back.
That's saying something. Wow.
I know, and we're really jumping in because we've got an interview today. Like, we're not even easing in. Like, we're just putting it out there. And it's been perfect so far. Zero technical difficulties. So
zero technical difficulties. I feel a hint of sarcasm there, just a little bit.
Just a little.
Yeah. Well, so there you have it. We're back. We're excited. We're committed to you. We just to show you how committed we are. We already have our next guest lined up after this one. So
wow,
that's saying something. Yeah. So we are here and we want to help you thrive in your life, listener, and do more of what you love. And today's show, we've got a lot jammed into it. We really are jumping back in, as Jebb said. Today, we're going to be talking about real reasons behind tech layoffs. We're going to talk about, is AI a threat to your job? We're going to look at the 10 most in-demand jobs that are coming if there's a recession or not a recession. I'm so confused by that economics. Got to go back to school to figure that out. We're going to talk about some creative marketing to gain attention. We're going to talk about mini cat sailboats today. That's going to be really fun and interesting.
Like little cat sailboats? Or do I just have to wait and find out? Okay.
You'll have to see. You'll have to see. So I'm excited about talking about those things. But before we jump into all of that, I want to welcome today's guest, Scott Sanders. Scott is a friend, and he is a provider. Well, he was a provider engagement manager for a healthcare organization in Chattanooga, Tennessee. He's experienced in cultivating relationships with post-acute care providers, leveraging data analytics to solve business issues, and collaborating with clinical and marketing teams to increase product utilization. He's worked with companies such as GAX, Cigna, and Ernst & Young. Scott, I was trying to think back when we first got introduced to one another. It feels like we've been friends forever. I don't remember. It's been a couple years.
Yeah, it has. First, thank you guys for having me on your podcast. It's a privilege. It started, I think, back September 2018, or actually probably August before that. Because I remember when I'd reached out to you, I was looking to make a career change from Cigna at the time, and put in a request for a resume/career coach, and found you through LinkedIn. And as they say, that's how the story goes. That's how the friendship started off as a professional, relationship, and then grew into a personal friendship. So it's been great.
Yeah. So it's been like 4 years, and it really is and this happens with, so many of my clients have really turned into friends. We're going to
Hmm.
have to do some type of like reunion or something to bring us all together.
Oh, great.
Because I'd love for everybody to meet everybody, but you're one of the clients. There's one other guy who does this as well, but every once in a while calls me out of the blue to see how I'm doing, and
Nice.
giving me kind of like career coaching and encouragement, and that's always it's always nice when I get those kind of phone calls. So when we first worked together, you made a job change, and I think you went to, and then you were there for a little while. Then
Hmm.
you made another job change, which is a part. Is that right?
That is correct. Yep.
Yeah. And then about, I don't know, maybe 9 months, 10 months ago, you called me up and you were like, I got to get out of here. Um, there was, I think, a sense of even kind of panic of like, oh my gosh, I've stepped back into this organization. This is not the right fit. I know that you felt, and I would agree with you, that it was even toxic.
Hmm.
So tell us a little bit about what was just going on with you, what you were feeling about where you were at that moment.
Yeah, it was. I thought I was making a good career move in the sense for being able to move up within my career. There was a comfort factor moving back into the umbrella. I was excited about it, got into it, and probably within, I would say, less than the first month, I started seeing a lot of major warning signs. Just within the team, there was just dysfunction. I mean, there was no real. I had no real help. Being brought in, like, okay, how are you going to do the job? Thankfully, I found someone who mentored me and is now a very good friend of mine, still to this day. So that was a blessing. But yeah, it just became very toxic. People were putting their work off on me. Some of the senior managers were, and it was like, stuff that they could easily do. And then we went through a management change where our director at the time was acting as a director and manager of our team, and then multiple teams. So then she hired in a new manager to actually be the manager of the team. And that's when the wheels just fell off, like literally. She was awful. Just awful. Some of the conversations you and I have had, that I had, it was just, character assassination, pretty much saying I'm not good at this or good at that. And the biggest thing was her telling me how I'm such a poor communicator, which I laugh at, which I think is funny because all of my customers and providers that I dealt with, that was one of the things that they really loved about me, was how well I communicated, timelines established, they were the relationship factor. So for her to tell me that, and, just little things like that. And then I think the final nail in the coffin was she decided to put me on a coaching plan. So that it wasn't, the next step wouldn't be, being laid off or let go. But in her mind, she felt like I needed additional education on how to communicate. And it was one of those instances with a manager where I felt like if I was doing something the right way, that wasn't her way. So she would come back and say something, or if I did something wrong, she would let me know either way. And it was just bad, like the whole dynamic, the culture. So that's when I called you and said, hey, I got to pull the ripcord here. So back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I mean, all of that is pretty deflating and discouraging for you. It's definitely not playing into what your strengths are, and helping you grow in your career,
Yeah.
and just demoralizing, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
well, I think and we had those conversations, you and I did throughout the last several months, when you just got to those moments where I think you were probably ready just to, walk out,
Mm-hmm.
of the whole place. But fast forward to where we are today. You've landed, and your words to me the other week was, I've landed my dream job. Like, you called me up before the offer came and you're like, this is it. I'm telling you, this is it.
This is
And I
all.
always worry when a client does that, because I'm like, oh no, what if they don't get this? And so there's a
Yeah.
lot riding on that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so you and I had some good conversations around that. You did land this job. You started Monday in this job. So tell us what your dream job is that you are doing right now.
Absolutely. So, just a quick backstory. I've always been fascinated with the pharmaceutical industry, and so this position that I was able to land is working with a PBM, and that stands for Pharmacy Benefit Manager. And they're a smaller PBM. Has one as well, which is one of the bigger three, but this one is a smaller company. And the title of the role is Senior Manager of Consultant Relations. And what it is that I'm having the opportunity and privilege to do is work with consultants in the pharmaceutical field to try to bring on new business for our company. So to get them to sign up with our PBM and working hand in hand with them and our sales team. So I almost attune to it as a provider solutions specialist, where I'm setting up calls and trying to get deals together. So it's heavily involved with the sales team, and but there is no quota associated with it. So that's nice. But what I just love about it is I'm fascinated by the pharmaceutical side of things. So now it's like peeling back the curtain, and I'm getting to see really how complex the industry is and the regulations. But I love it. I mean, my manager, my team, I get to travel again, get to go to conferences, meet people, and that's something I love to do, just form those relationships. And then from there, hopefully, deals come out of that. And yes, it is my dream job at this point. It has been, it still feels surreal. It really does. I was talking to my wife about it last night, and she said, I feel like you're just like in a dream. And I said, I do. And I don't want to wake up. I mean, it's just been, it's been great. And I know there's going to be, potential hiccups, but overall, I love what I'm doing, the culture, the team, the job itself. So that's kind of just a little bit of what I'm doing now. So, and it's really focusing in on my strengths, which are relationship building, putting time in, getting to know people. And aside from that, I get to learn, something that I've always wanted to learn more about. So,
Yeah, that is awesome. So, looking at our job, at the job market right now, it's super competitive. There's basically there's an average of 2 job recs open for every job seeker that's out there.
mm-hmm.
So I want to break this down for numbers, because I think a lot of times people will Eva Cub through Career Brand Story, and I think hope for the magic bullet, right? That we give you this beautiful resume, this beautiful updated LinkedIn profile, and then poof, it's just going to happen. But there's real data, there's real work that goes behind it, and I know that was true for you. So let's just break this down a little bit. Do you know how many jobs you applied to over like the last 9 months?
I mean, I don't have an actual like definitive number, but hundreds. I mean, easily, easily 100 to 200. I would say at minimum. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you know how many interviews you actually had?
Probably 20 to 30.
Okay. And I don't know if you could even answer this one, but do you know how many like different emails you had just corresponding back and forth?
Oh, yeah. Probably 40.
Yeah.
Or so. Yeah.
And the other thing that's interesting to me about interviews, and I know this to be true for you, is that a lot of these interviews were long interviews, where they also were requiring, we talked several times, you're like, they're requiring me to do this presentation and this and this and that. And I think even when you came to this job, you were like, I'm not doing that. Like you just got to the point where you're like, I'm done. And you kind of told them up front, like, this is what I want. I'm not jumping through all these hoops.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes into this interview process. We're talking about hours worth of work that's gone on. And there were many times I know through this process too, that you would end up like in the final 2 and then not get it,
Yep.
And I think at one point you were even like, yeah, I'm not even searching anymore. I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah. Yep. Interview fatigue.
Scott,
Yeah.
I'm curious. So you said you had like 20 to 30 get back to you, or 20 to 30 that were actually engaged? Like, were any of those just a right back that said, no, we're not interested?
Oh, I had plenty of those. I didn't even include those. I'm actually still getting those I call
Yeah.
them Dear John letters. I'm still getting those now, even, from months ago. And, it's nice now. I just laugh and delete it. Whereas before, it would be very deflating. But yeah, so
Wow.
I had a lot of thanks, but no thanks. And a lot of those, some of them were very like almost same day when I would apply, you'd get that rejection email. And it's like, oh man, well, okay.
Yeah. Rejection's hard, but it's encouraging to hear that you actually heard back from people anyway. Cause people I talk to, they're so frustrated that they're just left in limbo. They don't even know that they've been shot down. And then to say that like 20 to 30 actually engaged, that sounds kind of amazing to me. I'm not on the recruiting side. I'm on the brand side. So I'm just thinking about marketing. Sure. Like I expect a 1% return on, like an email campaign or something. And to hear that you're getting 20 to 30%, is that how it usually goes, Jeremy? It doesn't seem like it.
Well, I think
seems like Scott must just be awesome.
Well, I think also when you are a partner with Career Brand Story.
Oh, nice plug.
Shout out. No, that's fact. It's nice to be able to, absolutely. That definitely was a huge plus to me, because I would call Jeremy up when I had an interview or after I got, through the first interview and say, hey, look, here's the job. First, I'd send him the job description. He'd be like, I was like, hey, have you looked at it? Oh, no, I didn't. Sorry. It's like, okay, come on, look at it. I got specific questions I got to ask, but I'm super busy though. So I'm just busting his chops. But
welcome to the roast of Jeremy Todd.
But I would do a lot of prep work with him, and, just his availability was awesome. Cause I know sometimes I would reach out, to try to schedule a meeting and he wouldn't be available. And I would just text him on the side and be like, hey man, this is, mission critical here. Do you have any availability? And he would always make the time. And, he knew I would come. I had specific questions I would come with, because with my strategy, when I would look at the jobs, I'd be like, okay, it says XYZ here. What do you think they may ask? And, that really helped prepare me and come up with specific answers for potential questions that I may not have been as prepared for had I not had the opportunity to speak with Jeremy. So yes, I can't say enough good things about Career Brand Story and Jeremy and what he's doing in the market.
So what do you believe was the best career marketing strategy for you in this entire process? What was the most helpful thing?
I think what you taught me and what I've learned about myself going through the process is know your worth and don't settle for anything less than that. Because there were times I know when I was just so distraught, I was willing to take a pay cut or even consider a lateral move to get out of where I was at because of how bad the job was and how much it was affecting my mental health. And talking to you and the marketing strategy that you had told me is you're like, look, don't do it unless it's, unless you're short of checking yourself into, to a mental institution, for if it's that bad. I'm saying that tongue in cheek, but meaning in all seriousness, like if it's to the point where you're, that, your mental health is that upset or your anxiety, then do what you need to do. But if you can stick it out, know your worth, and don't let anyone dictate that.
Yeah. So is there anything you would do differently looking back on your job search and interviewing?
Yes, I would have been more upfront and not arrogant, but more direct with the recruiters. So pretty much, hey, don't waste my time. I'm not going to waste your time. Whereas before, I was more willing to go along for the ride until I found out, what I wanted. Whereas if I could go back, I would have been much more direct, and it would have saved me a lot of time and effort to think, okay, nope, this isn't worth it. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. So you don't have to give a dollar amount, but did you see an increase in your salary from going from your last job to this new job?
Yeah.
Do you have can you share a percentage?
30%.
That's nice.
Gosh.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it was for sure. So
wow.
That's awesome. Great job on that one. So what is the main thing that you would say really kept you motivated in your job search besides like, I want out of this place. What
Yeah.
was the key motivator for you?
I knew that there had to be a better job out there for me and for what I wanted to do, but more importantly, culture fit is very important to me, and I know you and I have talked about that. So that is really what drove me, and I wasn't going to settle. So that I had some specific interview questions that I would ask specifically with the culture, because you can talk about culture all day long, really, but until you can get past the gatekeepers, the recruiters, and really speak to the ones that are the decision makers, is where you can get those answers. But what I found with this company and what really sold me on them is from the initial interview with the recruiter all the way through to everybody I talked to. I asked them one similar question and they didn't know that I asked them. So it wasn't like they knew. I got the same answer, but maybe explained differently, but it affirmed what it was I was looking for, like in a cultural fit and, and aligned with my goals. So
Well,
that's
what
something.
was what's the question you asked?
Well, the company that I'm working with now, that their whole thing is like family. That's kind of like their hashtag, if you will. And I was kind of like, yeah, okay, like family. Okay, let's see.
Yeah.
And the recruiter that I worked with that hired me, she had that on her signature, her sites like family, and then her information. And that's one of their core values. Actually, it's like family. They treat everybody like family. So I had asked the recruiter all of those things, like what makes Abarca like family, and the culture surrounding this family, and we all love working with each other. And she shared that with me, and I shared with her the reason why I was leaving, because she kept asking, and finally I didn't hold back, but in a professional sense, I told her why I was leaving. And after I got through to the next interview with the hiring manager, I asked her the same thing. I said, "What is it about the company that keeps you here?" And I keep hearing like family, like family. And she said, "It's the truth." She said, "I love who I work with. We have a great team." She said, "We really take a personal interest in each other's lives as much as you're willing to share, and that's one of the reasons why I actually got hired, was because the fit that I had, that I was looking for, based on their culture. Because in full disclosure, I didn't have on paper all the experience that they were looking for, but they also hire on potential. And that's what um, really won me over, was the overarching theme of, we are like family, we care about each other, and we have fun. I mean, I can't remember the last time I've had fun at work. Like, this past week has just been, it's been a blast. Like, I get up excited to go to work, and the last time that happened was when I was at GHX, Jeremy. So yeah, I'm it's just great. And even my wife would tell you, she said, "I've seen just a change in you." She goes, the difference that a job can make, in your personal mental health, but also just your, enjoyment, like thriving. I'm thriving now. I am. So
Well, Scott, we're super excited. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story. I think it'll be a lot of encouragements to our listener out there that may find themselves in that position where they're really just maybe discouraged out there trying to search. And I think you've given a lot of hope that, hey, the next right job is possible. So we're excited for you. Wish you all the best, and thanks again for joining us today.
Yeah,
thank you.
thanks
It's
so
my
much,
pleasure.
Scott.
Take care. Bye bye.
All right, so we know, if you've been watching the news, there's been a lot of layoffs going on, especially in technology companies. They're just slashing jobs at an alarming rate in this post-pandemic economy. There was a famed stock picker and ARK investor CEO, Kathy Wood, in an article that was talking about that layoffs should not be viewed as a sign that the industry is in disarray. Talking about the technology industry. Utilizing layoffs to correct overhiring during the height of the pandemic, when productivity was a major concern. More significantly, she explained the layoffs may be more closely associated with new opportunities presented by artificial intelligence. So the article went on to talk about seeing the opportunity with AI for productivity gains, that's one of the primary opportunities associated with AI for traditional companies. And so we think companies need to increase their productivity, and maybe they went a little bit too far hiring, and now they're trying to address all the needs that COVID presented during that time. So more than 300 technology firms, cannot say that word, have been seeing layoffs in 2023. And according to recent data from Layoffs.fyi, nearly 100,000 jobs have been cut since the start of the year. These companies include Amazon, Apple, Zoom, Dell, IBM, Google, Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, top the list with at least 10,000 layoffs year to date. So the other thing then that this article was bringing up was also talking about AI threat. And is that really a threat to your job, right? So AI is upending certain fields, particularly after the release of Chat GPT.
That happened. I haven't heard of this.
Chat GPT.
I'm just kidding. Heard of this? I'm just kidding, man. Of course I've heard of it. It's everywhere.
So right, that released in November. Academia was recently rocked by the news. Get this, that Chat GPT had scored higher than humans on an MBA exam. I'm actually not surprised by that.
We're done. It's over.
Yeah. So the talk is, right, jobs in sectors such as journalism, higher education, graphic and software design, all of these can kind of be at risk. So kind of a lot to unpack here, but first let's just talk about the layoffs that we've seen in Q1, mostly in the tech space. Now, I really believe, and I've talked to many folks, across the sector. I have clients, high-level executive tech clients who I've talked to this about, and the tech layoff seems to be really more about overhiring. In fact, many of the big companies actually had net job growth even with the layoffs. If you go kind of look at like their hiring trends, while they might be hiring, laying off 10,000 people, they still had a net growth of actual jobs that they brought in. So prior to COVID, we were going to have a major shortfall of skilled tech workers, in the workforce by 2025. That was all the talk, right? We're not going to have enough technology workers by that point. That didn't go away. There's still plenty of tech jobs available. And I think what people may be learning is that those top tech companies that seem to be everyone's dream may not be such a paradise after all, right?
No
so
kidding,
there seems to be this, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many times people are like, I want to land a job at Google. I want to land a job at Amazon. I want to be at Microsoft. And, some food for thought here that maybe some of these mid-sized companies are doing some really great things in the space actually would give you better stability and better culture, right? From just looking at that at a big picture. And there seems to be this domino effect that happens, right? When these big name companies start to do layoffs, others kind of follow suit, right? They may not even need to. They're just like thinking like, well, if they're seeing this, then maybe we should be seeing something. And that speculation of ups and downs in the economy, looming recession, will it be wild? Will it be mild? It creates this narrative for the need to cut costs and lay off staff. And so what coincide with this, right, and is the release of new AI technology. So for me, it's more about, this is just the shift of how we were doing things during the pandemic time back to pre-pandemic levels, right, is what probably is really happening. But then in the news, right, we get AI technology. So it must be that's what's finally replacing all the jobs. Now, Jebb, I know you're in an industry that's seen this a lot of digital transformation that, let's be honest, has been a threat to your work for a long time. So being someone who has adapted to new technologies and photography, what are your thoughts about AI in the marketplace?
Well, you know me, I've always got a mixed opinion about this stuff. But you're right. It has been a huge impact on the imaging, the photography, video, film industry. The combo of the proliferation of digital cameras with Moore's Law. If you're not familiar with Moore's Law, it's the idea that every year there's a double amount of conductors put on a microchip, and it costs half as much to the consumer. So it's just this exponential growth, kind of a network effect. And so more digital cameras plus Moore's law makes it easier and easier to get high quality imagery from very affordable devices. I mean, I am not a camera snob. I don't go around looking down on people who are using their iPhone to take pictures, because the iPhone is freaking incredible. You and I are both Pixel users, and I switched from Apple iPhones to using a Google Pixel because the camera is amazing. And I have a $10,000 camera, but that phone camera is amazing. So I'm not going to argue about that. But what that's done is it's made us, the professional sector of photography and imaging, it's made us have to shift from selling good imagery to selling good service. And for somebody like me, that's great, because I'm in it because I just like getting to know people. I like to know what make people tick, and the photography, the image making is kind of secondary. But for other people who aren't like that, who don't have this kind of personality type, it's been detrimental, of course. And that's we're not even talking about AI there. We're talking about digital cameras. So with AI coming in, I'll admit I've been kind of putting my head in the sand, because it's hard to think about competing with computer imagery. You know, it's hard to think about things just being developed by the machine that will fit the bill for so many people. It won't be custom in the way that I think of custom, and it won't be as nuanced as if a human had input, but it'll be good enough for so many companies. And so I don't see it as a threat of like photographers, imaging people are going to go out of business. I see it as a threat of diluting the value of it, that we're going to have to work harder and longer and provide more, and it's just going to be tiring, if nothing else. But all that gloom and doom said, I think it's going to be great for business as far as some of the admin stuff, some of the task-oriented things of just plain getting back to people. I know a lot of solopreneurs like myself who our biggest flaw is we don't get back to people in time. I've got an email responder that says you can expect to hear back from me within 48 hours unless I'm on a shoot, and it might be longer. While AI is probably going to be able to work for me in the future of responding to folks with relevant information to what they need.
Yeah, I think for me, I think I've been incorporating like the chat GPT. Actually, I had before this podcast, I was working with a client, and I actually taught them. So here's the interesting thing: you have to give chat GPT prompts, and so just because it's available, it's a tool that you still have to learn how to use and use it well. And so I've been using it. I would say that it's really helped me just accelerate my turnaround time, and some of the tasks that I normally would have manually done, because I can kind of, accelerate that faster. Now I'm getting to spend more time with my client, actually really talking to them about their marketing strategy, and kind of into the meat and potatoes of what they really need, right? Writing a resume isn't rocket science. People have been doing that for ages. But understanding how you've really got to like market yourself in today's job market, that's constantly changing. And so like even today when I was meeting with this client, I actually said, hey, this is what you need to do and how you need to use chat GPT. And he asked a great question when I was showing him. He's like, well, what's the prompt you used? Right.
Yeah.
So I think that if you're able to use it in a way that, aids and accelerates that helps you provide stronger value service, then it's a win-win, you know?
Yeah.
Now I'm sure there's people out there, I'm sure there's resume writers out there who are probably going to like copy paste it, send something back. And you still kind of are going to get what you pay for, right?
Sure.
I don't know if you've been on TikTok lately. So those who are close to me, I'm one of those people who share many, many TikTok videos that I think are funny, that I think my friends should find funny. And so I've sent 2 to Jebb. He probably hasn't seen them yet.
Yeah,
but it was really one of them was a Judge Judy court case where this couple was suing an amateur photographer, for wedding pictures. They were awful pictures, but the funny part was they were suing. Right? Yeah, but how much do you think they paid
for an amateur photographer photographing a wedding? Oh, $500, $1,000.
Yeah, it was $400. $400, yeah. And I thought, well, yeah, you got what you paid for.
Yeah.
And then there was another TikTok. It was the same amount. I forget what it was, but they got like bad pictures or something. $400. So I was like, I guess you could do a lot for $400, right? So there is something to be said about paying for the expertise and the value of service still, and how that's delivered.
There's no getting around that part of the human element.
Yeah. So, I mean, no secrets here for us. I mean, Career Brand Story, like, yes, we're utilizing AI technology. I don't think there's any better way to outsmart systems that are being used than by using the very systems that are being used. And it really, I think it's making not only our career marketing stronger, but faster at our delivery back to our clients. And so I really don't see it replacing what we do. I really see it as enhancing what we do.
Absolutely. And I love that you're pitting the machines against the machines. Like it makes me think of Rock'em Sock'em Robots, the 2 robots in the ring. That's or even more like that show, was it BattleBots that used to come on? And the really smart engineers at MIT would make robots that fight each other. I love that.
Yeah, I think that's still on.
Oh, good. I haven't had cable or anything in years, so I don't know. But
yeah, I think they still do that.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I definitely see, and I guess to my point too, I see how it can be an enhancement to certain industries and a detriment to others. But that's kind of how progress works, right? Like, we've all heard the line about people thought they wanted a faster horse when the car came out. I don't lament the proliferation of digital cameras, even though it sounds like I do. The reality is I love the digital workflow more than the film workflow. It didn't get easier. And in fact, there's more to keep up with digital over film. But I find it advantageous. Digital helps me get my customers what they need. If I was a hobbyist, I might be lamenting digital, but digital helps me help people. So there's that. I prefer the process. And then, of course that movement towards digital did hurt some people, right? You don't see Jackson camera in the mall and 1 hour photos, but you see hundreds of people having their photos instantly processed in their hand, and so it helps some, it hurts others, and we just have to kind of learn to shift and move along with progress. That's just how it works.
Yeah. Well, and regardless of what is happening technology wise, good marketing is always about gaining attention, right? And you got to be creative with that. And sometimes maybe just going back to even some of the, out of the box or old school ways of doing things, still went out, like picking up the phone and calling, right?
Whoa.
There was a story that does work with an answer. So this was a story out of a woman who landed a new job after she sent in a resume cake. I think we may have talked about this in the past, but it came back up in my news feed, and I personally think this is great. So amid of a growing sea of creative, well-qualified candidates, 27-year-old Carly Pavlina Blackbird. I should have just said Carly Blackbird and skipped that.
Pavlinac? Pavlinak?
Pavlinak?
I don't know.
Pavlinak?
Carly P. Blackburn.
Pavlinak. Carly P. Blackbird
Yeah.
stood out from the competition with the resume sheet cake that she had hand delivered last fall to Nike headquarters via Instacart delivery, which was a catalyst for a number of career conversations. So she took a cake and she had it. What do you call it? She put her resume. She had it photoshopped, basically her resume on the cake. And sent it to that particular department. So all I'm saying is, look, if you send me cake, I'm going to eat it, and maybe I'll read it too.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's really creative thinking, and of course, it's easy to see something like that and think, "Oh, what a novel idea!" But that kind of thing has been around forever. You know, salespeople, professional salespeople who go out on sales calls for years have had gift budgets so that they can provide gifts for their clients. I remember I had an old boss that I was amazed. Like, not only did one of the vendors give him a gift of this nice bottle of scotch, they gave him like a sampler of other good high-end liquors, and not little tiny airplane mini bottles. Like, he got the full deal. Hundreds of dollars of liquor for him. Now, fortunately for me, he wasn't a drinker, so he passed it on among us in the office, and we got to pick our favorite. So I had a nice bottle of scotch. But that idea is not just about standing out. I mean, it helps to stand out, but I think that it's also about being likable, because as much as that's maybe not like the most PC or egalitarian thing to say, likability, we've talked about it before on this podcast, likability is a huge part of community, and jobs are community.
100%.
Scott was just talking about the "we're a family" line. Now, I cringed when he first said that, because that's to be like a Gen Zer here. That's a huge red flag to me when a company says we're like family, because I am big on the boundary of like, you are not my family. But he was smart in that he challenged them and said, what does that even mean that we're family here? And they let him know what it meant, and he's finding out that it's they're having fun, they're trustworthy, and they're legitimate and authentic. And I've gone off on a tangent here, but anyway, it goes back to, if you can get people something that stands out, but not just for shock value, but something that helps make you likable and is true to who you are, like, that's not new, and it's a good idea. Get in front of people's faces with things they're gonna enjoy experiencing.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And cake is definitely a way to do that for me. That's all I'm saying.
Same.
So let's talk a little bit as we talk about, these layoffs that have been happening. More layoffs seem to be kind of in the rumor mill for a lot of people. As I talk to clients, that's I would say a top concern right now is, hey, I think this might be coming. I need to be prepared. LinkedIn published the most in-demand jobs right now. These are the jobs with the fastest growing demand on LinkedIn. This was based on roles with the greatest increase in paid posts from Q4 of 2022. So October 1st through December 31st versus Q3 of 2022, July 1st through September. So here's the top 10. Front desk representative saw 2.7 times more jobs post in Q4 versus Q3. Psychologist, that's interesting. Car detailer, driver. I can see that. Where I live here in Nashville, in our community, they're always looking for just like bus drivers. I should also mention I'm doing a little Ubering right now, just kind of for fun. So I've done like 6 drives.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm just having fun with it. I really am.
Yeah, I live
so
kind of rural, so I thought about doing it, but like I don't think I would get any rides. So not
Yeah,
for me.
Nashville, you'll stay pretty busy.
Oh
So
yeah.
I don't know how long I'll do it, but it's just something that I like doing. So Baker. Oh, so that's interesting. Probably because more people are sending their resumes through Cake.
Yep. The
That makes
Carly
sense.
P was a leader and started the trend, and now we need more bakers. She is a job creator.
Yeah.
She should run for president.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 6 is information specialist. So they saw an increase of 1.9. Number 7, veterinary assistant, 1.9. So that's fun. You get to be around animals, cats, kitties, dogs,
Sick animals.
puppies.
That sounds horrible to me.
Uh,
I love animals. That's why it sounds horrible. It's not that I'm annoyed by
Yeah.
sick animals. It's that I'd be sad.
Yeah. Number 8, home health aid. I think you're going to continue to see an increase in just healthcare jobs in the tech space, in the actual people like home health people who can actually provide the service. I think there's a lot of growth in healthcare. Number 9, warehouse stock clerk actually grew. That's probably all Amazon, right?
Yeah, thanks, Amazon.
Thank you. And the number 10, training supervisor. I don't know what a training supervisor actually does, but it was a 1.7 increase in that job posting.
My guess is they supervise the training. It's just a hunch. All right.
They
bad
don't
jokes.
create it. They just supervise it.
They supervise
Anyways,
it.
there's the top 10. So if you're out there maybe thinking about where you kind of head, I don't know. That's kind of interesting to look at just at what's happening, what jobs are being looked at the most.
Okay, so in a fun turn of events, Jeremy was experiencing some weather in Nashville that was not good, and we lost power during recording. So we're actually back a week later to finish out this podcast, episode 41. I think you were about to tell me about somebody who, like a client of yours, or like in a discovery call or something.
Yeah, so we do talk more than just about careers and stuff here. This is really about, thriving in your life and doing what you love. And so a couple of weeks ago, I have this client. He actually lives in Ohio. He's moving down here to Nashville. And he said, we had talked on the phone, kind of like in a pre-sales consultative call. And then he was like, I didn't hear from him a couple of weeks. And then he was like, hey, I'm in town. Can we meet in person? I just really like to kind of meet people in person if I can, which is, I'm like, yeah, great. Let's do it. So we met up and I sat and talked with him about what he was looking for and the help he was needing and everything, and talked quite a bit. And, obviously I can talk very passionately about all of these things about career marketing. Clearly we have a podcast about it.
Sure.
And, so you don't always realize maybe like how much you're talking about it, your thing. And you're like, and so at the end of the conversation, he was like, so, do you do anything else than this? And, cause I asked him, I was like, do you have any other questions? And he's like, well, yeah. What do you do for fun? Do you do anything else than this? And it was that moment where I was like, oh no, this could be like how I answer this question may win or lose him as a potential client, right? That's how it felt. Yeah. I don't even know that he meant it that way. I think he was just being kind of genuine, like, what else do you do, man? And so it took me back because I had to sit there for a minute and think about it. And my wife, she's always on me about like, you need to find hobbies, you need to do something that's life-giving, and not always be working, which is 100% true. So anyways, I was like, oh, well, let me tell you. And I had this in my email. I've shared it with my dad. I've shared it with my son, Luke. And so I have, like, this is a dream of mine. I've always wanted to sell. Like I believe, this is idealistic of me, but I believe I would love to live on a sailboat for a period of time and just sell. Now, have I ever been on a sailboat for a period of time that I really like could say like that's a good idea? No. So I do need to experience that before I would commit to that.
It's a key indicator, maybe.
Yeah, but I love everything about sailboats. I read about them, I watch them. I'm enthralled by this idea that you can power something by the wind and just let it take you somewhere around the world is amazing to me.
That's really cool.
And I like the idea of living on a sailboat. I like the coziness of it. So where we live here in Nashville, we're actually in between two big lakes. There are sailboats on these lakes. I also learned I could buy a sailboat that I could live on if I wanted to for a fairly cheap price, because apparently people buy sailboats and then they regret buying those said sailboats and then they're quickly back on the market for a lot less.
Yeah.
So I don't know that they always hold the value. And so I've looked at that. I'm like, oh, well, I'll just buy one. And then I got thinking like, well, okay, again, you don't know how to sail. You haven't been on one for a length of time. Sailboats, just like anything, are going to require maintenance. And Jebb, as my very best friend, knows.
Yeah. Maintenance.
Like if you were living here with me, I could probably like convince myself to make the investment. And then I would be like all the time,
because
hey, Jebb,
I would
you wanna
have
hang
a
out
job
this weekend?
maintaining the sailboat.
Yeah. And I would
Yeah.
be like, hey, so our family's going to get together, hang out on the boat this weekend. And then you show up and I'd be like, oh, so I got this project.
By the way, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then you have to pay for a slip, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, that's not a good idea either. So then somehow I found out about mini cat sailboats, and mini cat sailboats are these sailboats that are portable. So they literally are like fold up like a tent.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so and you can get them from like for 2 people all the way up to 4 people. And it's like $5,000 to like $10,000.
Wow.
Which isn't like a bad price. And so like the 2-person one you can set up in like they say 30 minutes, and the 4-person one I think takes like 45 to 50 minutes to set up. But basically it's all inflatable, it sets up, and then you just go.
Man.
And so like the 2-person one has like it's kind of like, it's like 2 long kind of containers. So you could like put it on your roof, or you could literally put it in, if you have an SUV kind of car, you could put it in there.
Throw it in the back. Yeah.
Yeah. And you just go. And so, so they're really cool. So my goal is I would really like to, by this summer, to purchase one of these. And Luke and I are going to start sailing this summer, hopefully on one of the lakes.
Well, that's exciting. So,
yeah.
So what did your client say?
He was like, yeah, that's cool. I don't know that he had a big response after that. So
it's like sailing. Okay, cool.
He signed up and as
big
a client,
gulps, huh?
so I guess I satisfied the question. But he actually what is that device? It's not parasailing. It's over the land, and they've got like the paragliding.
Oh yeah,
is that what it's called?
Paramotor, paragliding, something like that. Yeah.
He used to do that. He just sold his equipment, but he used to do that. And
That's really
I said,
fun.
I couldn't do that. I'm scared of heights. And it was interesting. He said, well, you wouldn't be because you're sitting down. He said, if you're standing up, you will be. But because you're sitting down,
yeah,
you're not scared of heights. I don't know if I believe that theory, but I was like, oh, okay, sure. I'm going to go do sailboats.
I imagine it's like once you get a certain height off the ground, the fear probably goes away. But like,
yeah.
I'm not scared of heights when I'm like on a mountain, even on the ledge, but I'm scared of heights sometimes when I'm just on a ladder, like it seems really real when you're close to the ground.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just, I don't know either.
Perspective.
So it is perspective. But yeah, so anyways, you can go check out the people who sell the mini crafts, the mini cat sailboats, I should say, is greatlakeswatercraft.com.
Greatlakeswatercraft.com. Got a plug here for greatlakeswatercraft.com. Are they giving us some advertising dollars?
No, but if Great Lakes Watercraft would like to send me a boat to test out, I would do it for them.
I look forward
to
seeing
if we get this, I think like you should come out. We can do a whole thing around it, video. People, we can show it on the podcast and
That'd be great. I'd love it.
make it a thing.
I mean, I thought you
Yeah.
were just inviting me out for sailing, but it sounds like you want me to do some work.
Well, to wrap up this long and extended podcast, all of our best career brand story packages are back up on the website. In fact, this is a great time. This just happened this week. So there's good things that have happened because of this like break in this podcast. So right now, you can get the Trailblazer for an oldie goldie price of $259.
Ooh.
That package right now is valued at $595, and it is on sale for $259. That is an oldie goldie price. Yeah, it's a deal. It's a steal. And so it's got limited space. So there's only a certain amount of slots open for that to happen. But if you're just needing right now to get resume, LinkedIn done, the reason we've done that is because there are so many layoffs going on right now. And I realized that so many people are just in panic mode. Like, I've got to have something out there and get it into the market. And I get that. I hear that. So we just dropped the price on that so that you can get that done and feel good about it. Always knowing that when you want to take that further step in investment in your marketing strategy to really help you, you can just upgrade and make that happen. So that's kind of why we've thrown that out there to kind of help people. But check out our packages there. And we would love to be able to help you market yourself for today's job market. We've helped thousands thrive in their life and do what they love. And so you can get started today at careerbrandstory.com. You can also find us on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Look up our handle at Career Brand Story. You can find me at jeremytodd.co. And Jebb, where can everyone find you?
All social media handles is at Jebb Graff. And then you can find me on my website, jebbgraff.com. That's JEBBGRAFF.com.
All right, everyone. Well, we hope you have a great rest of the week. Keep thriving, and we'll talk soon.